Major victories for the Trump administration as the Supreme Court reinstates part of his travel ban, and Republicans work on a health care bill that would cut the deficit and lower premiums. But that's not the message the mainstream media will give you.
The big headline here, the 22 million more people be left uninsured by 2026 if the bill passes. I mean, is that too much for some Republicans to swallow?
There are promises, and then there's the math, and the CBO is that it's a far cry from what the president pledged on the campaign.
It's not even close, actually.
Of course.
I don't believe in targeting Muslims.
But that's
right?
what
so
this
obviously
does,
there's no question.
Congressman. That's what this does.
I'd just like to know, because, you know, some people have suggested this may become chaotic again.
So why aren't they highlighting any of the positives? Here to weigh in, contributor at The Hill and author of Government Gone Wild, Kristin Tate. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So what is the deal with the mainstream media?
I mean, they're becoming increasingly flagrant in their anti-Trump bias.
And they're proud of it.
They're proud of it, and these recent stories and their coverage of these stories highlight just how extreme their political agenda is. I mean, you just mentioned the CBO report on the Senate health care bill. On the mainstream media, including television and print, you will see numerous headlines using fear-mongering rhetoric to proclaim that 22 million Americans will lose their health care coverage.
Right.
And while it's true that the CBO did predict that, what these media outlets never mention is that many of these people would not be insured anymore because they don't want health insurance.
Because the CBO has to do their reports based under the current law, which includes the individual mandates.
Exactly. And the CBO report also included positive predictions for the bill, including that it would lower premiums and the deficit, but the media never really highlights those facts.
They don't tell the full story.
Exactly. And then, of course, the other story that is highlighting the bias is the travel ban. Of course, the Supreme Court recently reinstated at least part of the ban. The media is losing their mind over this. I mean, you should see the headlines. I looked online. I couldn't find any headlines from major outlets that stressed how this bill or how this travel ban will increase national security. It's all about fear-mongering.
Let's take a look at some of those headlines. This is from the New Yorker. The CBO gives Senate, we just heard about this, 22 million reasons to reject the health care bill. And then CNN says, mom on Medicaid cuts are a punch to the gut. LA Times, even partial reinstatement of the travel ban will cause hardship.
It's really unfortunate because the majority of Americans actually believe that this ban will make us safer. Poll after poll have found that. But this just shows how out of touch these mainstream media outlets are with normal Americans. But I think none of this stuff really comes as a surprise to most people. Most people know that these media outlets are very against Trump. I mean, 93% of CNN and NBC's coverage of Trump has been negative. And I think the New York Times, the Washington Post, they're all kind of similar in their coverage.
The majority of their stories now are coming from anonymous sources.
Right. It's ridiculous. I mean, we can't even verify a lot of the information
which has gotten CNN in trouble already.
Right. They've had to come out and apologize for a lot of their stories. But you know what, Heather? The American people aren't stupid. They see what is going on. Only 32% of Americans today trust the mainstream media. That is a sad fact. But at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of these outlets are changing minds because they are so liberal. They're just kind of pandering to the far left.
So when will people start tuning out?
I mean, I think they already have. Again, I think most of the people who watch CNN, who read the New York Times, they're already in the far left. Thankfully, for those of us who are conservatives or maybe more independent, the internet has allowed us to find other sources. Fox News has been very fair and balanced. So the diversification of media has allowed other voices to come to the table, which I think is good.
Not just the media that they're turning away from. We did a story yesterday about the majority of people that are turning away from the Democratic Party and the middle class specifically turning away because they can't relate anymore.
Right. I mean, the Democratic Party, and I think this is echoed in the mainstream media, has really become all about obstruction. Just, you know, they'd rather see resistance. Exactly. It almost seems like they'd rather see America fail than have the Republicans, or Trump for that matter, have a legislative win. And it's sad because, you know, most of us, I think most Americans, most people in middle America, they want to see the country move forward. They want to see people work together. So I sure hope that the mainstream media will start covering stories accurately and fairly, but don't have a lot of hope at this point.
All right, Kristin, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you
joining us as always.